big as a boot, and he could wriggle about from side to side. But he couldn't pick up things with it. But there was one elephant, a new elephant, an elephant's child.
That's me.
This elephant's child was full of insatiable curiosity, which meant he asked ever so many questions.
Who, me?
He lived in Africa, and he filled all Africa with insatiable curiosity.
An ostrich. Why do your tail feathers grow just so?
And his tall aunt, the ostrich, spanked with her hard claw.
Ow! Uncle Giraffe, what makes your skin so spotty?
And his tall uncle, the giraffe, spanked him with his hard hoof.
Ow!
And still he was full of insatiable curiosity.
An hippopotamus, why are your eyes red?
And his broad aunt, the hippopotamus, spanked him with her broad hoof.
Ow! Uncle Baboon, why do melons taste just so?
And his hairy uncle, the baboon, spanked him with his hairy paw.
Ow!
And still he was full of insatiable curiosity. He asked questions about everything that he saw, or heard, or felt, or smelt, or touched. And all his uncles and his aunts spanked him.
Ow! Ow! Ow!
And still he was full of insatiable curiosity. One fine morning, the insatiable elephant child asked a new fine question that he had never asked before.
What does a crocodile have for dinner?
Then everybody said hush, in a loud and dreadful tone, and they spanked him immediately and directly without stopping for a long time.
Ow!
By and by, when that was finished, he came upon a Kolo bird.
That's me.
Sitting in the middle of a wait-a-bit thorn bush.
Kolo bird, my father has spanked me, my mother has spanked me, and all my aunts and uncles have spanked me for my insatiable curiosity. And still I want to know what a crocodile has for dinner.
Go to the banks of the great green Greason and Koko River, all set about with fruit trees, and find out.
That very next morning, the insatiable elephant's child took 100 pounds of bananas, the little short red kind, and 100 pounds of sugar cane, the long purple kind, and 17 melons, the green crackling kind, and said goodbye to all his dear families.
Goodbye, I'm going to the great green Greason and Koko River, all set about with beaver trees to find out what a crocodile has for dinner.
And they all thanked him once more for luck, though he asked most politely to stop.
Ow! Please stop.
Then he went away, eating melons and throwing the right about because he had no trunk to pick it up. He went east by north, eating melons all the time, till at last he came to the banks of the great green Greason and Koko River, all set about with beaver trees, precisely as the Kolo bird had said.
It sure is greasy.
The first thing that he found was a bicolored python rock snake curled around a rock.
That's me.
Excuse me, but have you seen such a thing as a crocodile in these parts?
Now you must know and understand that till this very week and day and hour and minute, this insatiable elephant's child has never seen a crocodile and did not know what one was like. It was all his insatiable curiosity.
Have I seen a crocodile in these parts? What will you ask me next?
Excuse me, but can you kindly tell me what they have for dinner?
Then the bicolored python rock snake uncoiled himself very quickly from the rock and spanked the elephant's child with his skeleton flails and tail.
Ow! My father has spanked me, my mother has spanked me, and my aunt, my uncle, and not to mention my other aunt, the hippopotamus, and my other uncle, the baboon, have all spanked me for my insatiable curiosity, and I suppose it's for the same thing.
So he said goodbye very politely to the bicolored python rock snake.
Goodbye, bicolored python rock snake.
And helped to coil him up on the rock again, and went on eating melons and throwing the right about because he could not pick it up, till he trod on what he thought was a log of wood at the very edge of the great green Greason and Koko River, all set out with beaver trees, but it was really the crocodile.
That's me.
And the crocodile went to one eye like this.
Excuse me, but have you seen such a thing as a crocodile in these parts?
Then the crocodile winked the other eye and lifted half of his tail out of the mud, and the elephant's child stepped back most politely because he did not wish to be spanked again.
Come here, little one. Why do you ask such things?
Excuse me, but my father has spanked me, and my mother has spanked me, as well as my tall aunt the ostrich and my tall uncle the giraffe, who kicked ever so hard, as well as my broad aunt the hippopotamus and the hairy uncle the baboon, and the bicolored python rock snake just up the banks with the scales and flails and tail. And if it's quite the same to you, I wish not to be spanked anymore.
Come hither, little one, for I am the crocodile.
And he wept crocodile tears to show it was quite true.
You are the very person I've been looking for all these long days. Can you kindly tell me what you have for dinner?
Come here, little one, and I'll whisper.
Then the elephant's child put his head down close to the crocodile's musky, tusky mouth, and the crocodile caught him by his little nose, which up to that very week, day, hour, and minute had been no bigger than a boot, though much more useful.
I think today I'll begin with elephant's child.
Let go, you're hurting me.
Then the bicolored python rock snake scuffled down from the bank and said,
My dear young friend, if you do not know, pull as hard as you ever can. It is my appearance that the self-protected upper deck
That's me.
will jerk you into yonder limpid stream before you can say Jack Robinson.
This is the way bicolored python rock snakes always talk. Then the elephant child sat back and pulled and pulled and pulled, and his nose began to stretch. And the crocodile floundered into the water, making it all creamy with great sweeps of his tail, and he pulled and pulled and pulled. And the elephant child's nose kept on stretching. And the elephant child planted his four little legs and pulled and pulled and pulled, and his nose kept on stretching. And the crocodile threshed his tail like a boar, and he pulled and pulled and pulled. And at each pull, the elephant child's nose grew longer and longer, and it hurt him hinges.
Ow!
Then the elephant child felt his leg slipping, and he said through his nose, which was now nearly 5 feet long.
This is too much for me.
Then the bicolored python rock snake came down from the bank and knotted himself in a double clove hitch around the elephant child's hind legs.
Rash and inexperienced traveler, we will now devote ourselves to some serious high tension. It is my appearance that the self-propelling man of war
That's me.
will seriously vitiate your future career.
That is the way all bicolored python rock snakes always talk. So he pulled, and the elephant child pulled, and the crocodile pulled. But the elephant child and the bicolored python rock snake pulled hardest. And at last the crocodile let go of the elephant child's nose with a plop that you can hear all up and down the Limpopo.
Thank you, bicolored python rock snake.
Next he was kind to his poor pulled nose and wrapped it all up in cool banana leaves and hung it in the great greasy Limpopo to cool.
What are you doing that for?
Excuse me, but my nose is badly out of shape, and I'm waiting for it to shrink.
It takes a long time for people to know it's good for them.
The elephant child sat there for 3 days waiting for his nose to shrink, but it never grew any shorter. For you will see and understand that the crocodile had pulled it out into a really, truly chunk, same as all elephants have today. At the end of the 3rd day, a fly came and stung him on his shoulder.
Ow!
And before he knew what he was doing, he lifted up his trunk and hit the fly dead with the end of it.
Vantage number 1. You couldn't have done that with a mere smear nose. Try and eat a little now.
Before he thought what he was doing, the elephant child put out his trunk and plucked a large bundle of grass, dusted it clean against his forelegs, and stuffed it into his own mouth.
Vantage number 2. You couldn't have done that with a mere smear nose. And don't you think it's hot?
It is.
And before he thought what he was doing, he swooped up a sloop of mud from the banks of the great green greasy Limpopo River and slapped it on his head, where it made a cool, sloopy, sloshy mud cap, all trickly behind his ears.
Vantage number 3. You couldn't have done that with a mere smear nose. Now how do you feel about being spanked?
Excuse me, but I should not like it at all.
How do you feel about spanking somebody?
I should like it very much indeed.
Well, you'll find that new nose of yours good for spanking.
Thank you. I think I'll remember that and go home and try it with all my dear family.
So the elephant child went home, frisking and whisking his trunk. When he wanted fruit to eat, he pulled fruit down from a tree instead of waiting for it to fall as he used to. When he wanted grass, he plucked grass up from the ground instead of going on his knees as he used to. When the flies bit him, he broke off a branch of a tree and used it as a fly whisk, and made himself a new, cool, slushy, swashy mud cap whenever the sun was hot. When he felt lonely walking through Africa, he sang himself down his trunk, and the noise was louder than several brass bands. The rest of the time, he picked up the melon that he had dropped on his way to the Limpopo, where he was a very tidy packeter. One dark evening, he came back to all his dear families. He coiled up his trunk and said,
How do you do?
They were very glad to see him and immediately said,
Come here and be spanked for insatiable curiosity.
Oh, pooh, I don't think you peoples know anything about spanking, but I do, and I'll show you.
Then he uncurled his trunk and knocked 2 of his dear brothers head over heels.
Oh, bananas. What have you done to your nose, and where have you learned that trick?
I went to the banks of the great green greasy Limpopo River and asked what the crocodile had for dinner, and he gave me this to keep.
Looks very ugly.
It is, but it's very useful.
And he picked up his hairy uncle the baboon by one hairy leg and hove him into a hornet's nest. Then that bad elephant child spanked all his dear families for a long time. Ow!
Ow!
At last things grew so exciting that his dear families went off one by one in a hurry to the banks of the great green greasy Limpopo River, all set about with fever trees, to borrow new noses from the crocodile. When they came back, nobody spanks anybody anymore. And ever since that day, all the elephants you will ever see, besides all the ones that you won't, have trunks precisely like the trunk of the satiable elephant's child.
That's me.